So there's often a lot of discussion about the validity of science. So scientists, researchers talk about these kind of things in terms of how to make the results that we have more valid. And there's all sorts of discussion. I think right now that there is this. So I hate to say this, but it's very much feels like that we're supposed to pursue bad apples, but I actually don't think that that is the case. I don't think it's bad apples. I think it's often the culture, and I think the culture comes down to those that, often stress performance above all else, and in my experience, it's often just one or two people that are within a particular community that often make that feeling happen and then just kind of ruin it because it creates this sort of tension often. And the only way that I've learned how to navigate this tension is to distance myself from those that sort of create that tension in your life that, make you feel like, you're lesser than or that you are, somehow a problem. I think that this is true of I think it's true of almost every organization that exists, right? Like there is going to be a group of people and, if you don't curtail the one or two people that just really change the culture or make it kind of, I hate the terminology of toxic, but, I just don't like it because I don't think it's very representative. Um, but I think people understand what I'm talking about when I talk about that. But I think it's like when the one or two people just focus on outcomes above all else and don't focus on the fact that there are the outcomes, they're not the predictor. I think that's where science often is completely wrong, and my field is completely wrong. Um, of strategy, often it's extraordinarily wrong. I think I'm starting to see in the last few years that people really starting to get it now, that there is a change. There's slight conversations that are happening where the conversation is not about performance, not about outcomes, and I think it was greatly I think that there was some influential thinkers, maybe not even in academia, right? Like I think that there is, the sort of Jack Welch type style of management. The management that sort of permeated in the 1980s that permeated deeply within a lot of culture, and it was just focused on outcomes, right? Like, did you accomplish something? That is deeply rooted within if you talk to people, it is so deeply rooted within scientific cultures, like just focus on outcomes, right? Like a number of citations you have, the number of papers you have, the number of grants you have, like you name it. It's all just focused on that. And anybody that knows even just a little bit of like management realizes that those are lagging indicators and they're really poor lagging indicators. Some of the best research that I know of on this and how it sort of torments and destroys things is coming out of MIT. Um, there's a small group of people that focuses on looking at systems dynamics and sort of what happens and they play around with things, and inevitably, so it's like out of the, John Sterman group, which I really like that research because it takes a quantitative look on much of this stuff, but, sort of quantifies that if you start looking at it and you start realizing, if you start understanding that there is a big difference between what you're doing and what happens at the end of it. And there is this gap between the two that if you just focus on the outcomes, like they have several groups of papers about this, but you just focus on the outcomes, you essentially erode everything, and everything just falls apart. Um, that it creates this kind of just not great atmosphere, and kind of just things fall apart. Things don't work that well. Um, and I think that this is often at the heart. I am deeply convinced this is at the heart. If you work on the thing that matters, right? Like, what is the thing that matters? The thing that matters often in an organization has nothing to do with performance. It's, do people feel safe? Do people have a sense of unconditional love? I believe in those things, right?